Yo, what's up guys? Joey Adrian here, and today we're going to be talking about the back full tutorial. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking me about it in comments as well as through messages. Sounds like a lot of you guys really want to learn this move, and I'm more than down to bring you an in-depth tutorial on it. But the thing is, it must be stated about 1 billion times. I cannot stress the importance of this. There are a lot of prerequisites that you need to have on lock before you move into this tutorial. Now, I'm going to be doing this tutorial with the assumption that you have the following on lock. The first one is a front flip on flat ground as well as off of a ledge. The next one is a back flip on flat ground as well as off of a ledge. Then a back layout off of a ledge. It's okay if you don't have it on flat ground. And the final one is a front half off of a ledge. Now, all of those are pretty straightforward except for the front half. Now, the reason that's a little confusing is because there's about 10 different ways to do a front half, and there's one specific way that you must know how to do before you move on to this back full, because we're going to be using it a lot. And that is a late twisting front half where we initiate the spin with our hips, not with our shoulders. So I'm going to hop up here and I'm going to show you real quick. The key thing to note is that I'm starting my front flip, and then partway through I'm twisting my hips to initiate the half, then I'm landing. Now, I'm gonna do this with a punch to demonstrate. I recommend doing it with a punch. If you do it with a Webster, that's completely fine as well. The key thing is that you initiate the front flip and then start the half after you're in the air, starting from your hips. All right, guys, assuming you have those prerequisites on lock, let's get started with this tutorial. So step one is going to be not a backflip at all. We're actually going to start with front flips. I'm going to explain why real quick so that you're not super confused as you walk through these steps with me. What we're going to do is we are going to take a front flip, we're going to turn it into an Arabian, then we're going to add in our front half to that Arabian, and it's going to create an Arabian half. It looks and feels very similar to a back full, but it's not a back full. Now, this is going to be important because after we have the Arabian half on lock, the rest of the tutorial will be teaching you how to take your back flips, turning them into back halves, and then combining the two techniques of a back half and an Arabian half into a clean back full, an actual back full. So bear with me, we are going to be starting with front flips. It will make sense in the long run though, I promise. All right, so we're going to start with just a standing front flip off of the ledge, and we're going to slowly and incrementally transition that into an Arabian front flip. Now, if you don't know what an Arabian is, all it is starting facing this direction, jumping up, doing a 180 in the air, and then turning that into a front flip, and that's an Arabian. Now, we're going to go through just a few basic steps to show you how you can transition your standing front flip into an Arabian relatively quickly and without too much fear involved. It might take a lot of time and a lot of drilling, but it's a very simple step-by-step process. All right, so the first step here is just a standing front flip off the table. Make sure that you land nice and tall, you know exactly where the ground is, and it feels nice and safe, so then we can go into the next step. So now that we've done our first front flip off the ledge, it's feeling really good, it's feeling comfortable. Now we're gonna start to transition that into the Arabian, and we're gonna start to turn our body just a little bit. But it's important to know before we do this, which way you twist. Now, you should already have your front halves on lock. For me, I twist to the left for my front halves. It's the same thing for my back fulls, I twist to the left. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my body to the right just a little bit, so that when I'm flipping off the table, I'm turning to my left, then doing this front flip. The first one is very simple. We just point our feet and hips in one direction, we turn our chest facing forward, and then we do our front flip. If that's too much of a turn, you can do just a tiny bit to begin with. I'm gonna start about here, we're just gonna toss our front flip. Now that should be getting us just the beginning feelings of moving into what's called a caster front flip. Now, caster front flip would be starting here, front flipping straight, but pushing our body that way. Now you can do this as an intermediate step if you want. For me, I'm just gonna keep going and I'm gonna continue to front flip straight in this direction. What I mean by that is that my chest will not be flipping like this, it will be flipping like this every single time. A caster front flip, we flip here, push that way. A front 90, I'm gonna call it, is flipping with our chest in this direction. What we're gonna start to do now that we're a full 90-degree spin is we're gonna start to engage our arms a little bit more in this turning motion. They're both gonna start down by my hips. They're gonna come up similar to something like a backwards cartwheel, but they're gonna come up to the front and then throw down with my chest. It's a very fluid motion. They come up and down all together. Should look something like this. Now, if that feeling is a little bit weird to begin with, what you can do is start on the ground with the same move and go into a dive roll instead. It's a really good way to keep this super safe instead of just hucking the front flip and ending up smashing down on your butt or something like that. That's gonna be painful. If your body's not feeling it and you can't really get the idea of what your arms and head and chest are supposed to do, just take it to the ground and work everything with dive rolls instead of with front flips. I highly recommend that. It's not something that I'm going to show you because it should be very self-explanatory. You do the exact same steps that I'm going through now, but you roll instead of flip. All right, so now that we've done the 90-degree turn, we're going to take it a little bit further. We're going to go to about 270. So now I'm facing this direction. The key here is really focusing on getting those arms to go up, around, and down in a very fluid motion. Again, feel free to work on this with dive rolls first before taking it up onto a ledge and attempting to do it with the full flip. Now what we're gonna do is the same exact thing. Check it out. All right, so as long as that last step, starting from 90 degrees and doing our front flip straight off that other direction, is feeling really comfortable, and again, the key is keeping those arms in a nice fluid motion all the way up, turning and down all together. If that's feeling great, now we're gonna move on to the full Arabian. Now we're just gonna start facing straight backwards, coming up and over the top, and throwing straight down. Your arms should never stop moving. It's a very fluid motion from the bottom to the top and back to the bottom. All right, guys, hopefully you have your Arabians now and we're ready to move on to the next step to gain our back fulls. Remember, if you ever get stuck or scared of any of these steps, don't start on a ledge, take it to the ground first. You already know how to do a few flips. You should know how to progress safely from the ground up to a ledge. So I'm trusting you that you won't just jump into this haphazardly and kill yourself. All right, guys, so we covered step one, which is taking our standing front flips off of a ledge and turning that into an Arabian off the ledge. Next up, step two, it's gonna be very quick, very brief. We're just gonna hop up onto that same ledge and we're gonna do a couple solid front halves off the ledge. Now this is very important because we wanna make sure that we can initiate that twist of the half very quickly and on a moment's notice. So what I want you to do is practice some late twisting halves and some early twisting halves, but making sure it's initiated from your hips, not from your shoulder, not from your head. That first one was a little bit late. This time I'm gonna do it a bit earlier. And next up, we're gonna do it super late. I might end up on my butt right now, but again, I'm just trying to feel out the twist of my hips and when it has to happen to start that 180. And there it goes. We over-rotated a little bit, but that's because we twisted the hips super late. But now I know that I have the control to initiate that twist whenever I want to in my flip. So moving on to step 3, we are now gonna take our Arabians and our front halves and we're gonna combine them to create an Arabian half, or otherwise known as a really sloppy back full. This step is very self-explanatory. You just do a very high Arabian. After you've started flipping forward in your Arabian, you then wait until the correct timing to initiate those hips to finish the second half just like a front half. Because the Arabian is a half to front flip, which should put you in the perfect position and a very comfortable position to then turn it into a front half. So we have half front flip, front half. Now for this one, I recommend taking off of something a little bit higher than what I'm on here. You can notice that this isn't even hip height for me. I recommend something between hip height and middle of your torso. I don't recommend going any higher than your chest though, because that's when it starts to get a little bit too dangerous and you start to rely too much on the height and not enough on the ability of your body to actually do the flip, and you lose a lot of technique if you start with something too high. So keep it below your chest but above your hip. It's a pretty good rule of thumb. All we're gonna do is start off with one very high Arabian, opening up and thinking about when I can twist my hips. Twist. So right there, I just shouted out twist when I thought I should twist. It was right about when I touched my hands in that tuck. And that's a pretty good rule of thumb that I usually go by when I'm doing Arabian halves, is I actually just tap my shins, open, and finish the half. So this step is a little bit weird and it's a little bit scary to try the first couple times. So I recommend finding something a little bit softer than the ground I'm on here. Some bark chips work really well, some sand works really well, just to alleviate the fear. But the thing is, after you've done it once or twice, it starts to feel really natural. If you're confident and comfortable with your Arabian and you're confident and comfortable with your front half, combining the two feels just as easy as doing them separately. So step number 4, we're now gonna take a step away from the front flips and we're gonna go back into our back flips, and we're gonna start with doing back halves. Now to get there, the first step is gonna be doing a caster backflip. What a caster backflip is starting on the table, facing this direction, but jumping that direction and doing a normal backflip. Should look something like this. Now, if you do your caster backflip correctly and you tuck really tight, really early, you have a clean backflip, what you're gonna notice is that your hips and your body just automatically start to turn towards the direction you're pushing. I don't know what causes it. I have no idea what causes it. All I know is everybody that I've seen do casters and do high, nice tucked ones tend to twist just a little bit towards the direction that they push. It's a very natural feeling. What we're gonna do is we're gonna not fight that feeling. We're gonna go with that feeling and we're gonna actually do a backflip 90. And basically just start facing this way, do our caster backflip, and end facing this direction. Looks a little bit weird, but it feels really natural because your body already wants to start to do a little bit of that twist because we're pushing in that direction. Now it's important to note that if you jump to your left, you will spin to your left. If you jump to your right, you'll spin to your right. So choose your side according to which way you do those front halves. Now doing that caster 90-degree twist like we just did feels very much like a 90-degree down. And what I mean by down is that we flip first and then we spin second. That's a something down. So if you're gonna do a full down, you would do a backflip, and on the way down, do a full spin. We just did a 90 down, which we did the backflip first, and then we did a 90-degree twist coming down. Now we're gonna do a back half down. And start facing here, getting a high backflip to start. Once my eyes spot the ground, then I'm gonna twist my hips. What's very common is actually landing a little bit too far backwards like this and falling back, either rolling back or just falling back to your butt. That's completely fine. The goal here is just twisting those hips and getting the feel for that back half. So notice how none of those were a very clean landing. One I fell back, a couple I stumbled. None of it's clean, and that doesn't matter. We're not trying to land a clean half down. We're just trying to get the initiation of that twist from our hips, because our next step is gonna be doing an actual back half. Now, in order to do this, we have to start with a layout, not a tuck. And in my experience, it takes a lot more power than you initially expect. So I'm gonna hop up, do one normal layout, and try to get my eyes to the ground as quickly as I can, so it's gonna be a powerful one. Remember, I'm focusing on getting my eyes to the ground quickly, because as soon as my eyes see the ground, that's what's gonna be my cue to twist my hips. The first time you do this, it's okay just to twist a little bit. You don't have to get the full 180 right off the bat, but the goal is eventually to do the full 180. So you start here, you do your layout, and you end facing backwards. The key thing to take away from this is that my eyes are seeing the ground before my hips are rotating. That's my safe zone. As soon as my eyes see the ground, I know that I can pull my feet to the ground and my feet will hit first and I won't bail. So I always wait for the eyes to see the ground, then twist. Once you have that on lock, I'm talking about it's comfy, you can just hop up on this bench, do it without thinking. Then we can move on to the next step. So step number 5 is taking those back halves that we just got and turning those into back 270s. Now, it's not super important that you get a full 270. It's just important that you're twisting before your eyes see the ground. That's the part where this gets scary, and it's not gonna make sense until we tie it together with our Arabian half in the next step. But for now, just bear with me and go through with this step. So we're gonna hop up. You can start again with refamiliarizing yourself with those back halves, just getting a couple out of the way. But your goal is to just start twisting those hips just a split second before your eyes see the ground. What that's gonna do is give you a little more time. So instead of twisting to here, we can twist to here. Now, the key thing that I want you guys taking away from this step that we just did, the thing that I want your body to learn from this, is what our head does. Because now we're gonna talk about the difference between an Arabian half and an actual back full. So with our back 180s and our back 270s and eventually our back fulls, our head never goes under our shoulder. It always goes over the top of our shoulder every single time. With our Arabian halves, it goes under our shoulder every single time. That's what makes the difference between an Arabian half and a back full. So finally, we're at step 6, where we're gonna be doing some Arabian halves and we're gonna be evolving those into our back fulls. Now, I'm gonna run through the quick evolution, and I want you to watch as I play through these and really pay attention to exactly what my head is doing and when my head is doing it, because we're gonna turn your Arabian halves into true back fulls. So the first one is just gonna be a normal Arabian half, a very strict Arabian half where I'm clearly doing an Arabian and clearly doing a half out with a tight tuck in between. Going up, doing the front flip, tucking my legs, and then kicking out for the half twist at the end. Now on this next one, we're gonna do what's called a pucked Arabian half. Now what that means is that my arms and my body will be in the position of a tuck, but my hands won't actually grab my shins. They'll be there, but they won't grab. For this next one, I'm gonna be a little bit more open. I'm still not gonna be laid out like a full back full, but I am gonna be a little more open and not fully pucked like this. I'm gonna be a bit open. This is still an Arabian half because of what my head is doing. Pay very close attention. So for our final step, we're gonna revisit those backflip halves that we were doing before and those backflip 270s that we were doing before, and note exactly what our head is doing. It's going up and over our shoulder first. We're gonna try to incorporate that takeoff with our Arabian half rotation. That's gonna be where you evolve from an Arabian half into the back full. Go up, and our head goes over the top, not turning and underneath. So as we worked through this tutorial, there were a lot of different parts that are all trying to give you a specific feeling. It needs to give your body the correct feeling, and you can take that feeling and use it in the end product. And that's the key to learning a ton of these more advanced moves, is just getting your body comfortable with the movements that it needs to be doing. That's very, very difficult in a lot of cases, and we have to get pretty creative and do some things that are a little out of the ordinary. Things like learning front halves and Arabians to get our back fulls, specifically to get the feeling of what our hips need to do, what our shoulders need to do, what our head needs to do. There's a lot of steps, and the more advanced the moves get, the more prerequisites you need, because those prerequisites teach your body what exactly it needs to know how to do and what it needs to feel like in those positions, so that you know how to manipulate it to create a new move. So hopefully this wasn't too confusing and too random with a lot of the different movements. If it was, definitely drop a comment. Let me know what you're confused about, and I'll try to follow it up in the comment section below. Other than that, guys, that's all I got for today. Hopefully you liked the video. If you did, drop a like, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.